Hello, my name is David Southgate, and I'm a mentor for Lake Babine Nation, working out at the Babine River here, and we're on the Babine River Smolt Program. So the idea of this, LBN is a contract with DFO and other NGOs to run the program. The program is, in essence, is an enumeration program. We're trying to get an estimate of smolts leaving Babine Lake towards the Skeena. It correlates with the fry production at the two spawning channels, Pinkett and Fulton, and of course the wild stocks. And quite simply put, we can't get an exact number, but we do a pretty good job on a marker capture program and just have a rough estimate of what we're getting out. And also we do some sub-sampling for fish health and quality. Part of this video is it's all in reference to the SOP that was developed a few years ago. This is kind of an overview of everything. I hope I'm getting through to anybody that's out there listening. Always refer back to the SOP, and in doubt, you get a hold of people that have done it in the past. And I think in the SOP there's a list of names that have some of us old fellows that are around that can still help out. If you follow the rules of what's laid out for you, the program will work. A typical work day, and this is dealt with early in the season, you will get the term, you want them on the dock at 5 to 8. On the dock, ready to go to work. It takes you 5 minutes to get up there. You want them on the trap at 8. The reason is the taggers have got to get going. You got work to do, and if you got a big day, you can't be lollygagging around. And you have a time frame where the fish have to be tagged by 1:15, so they can be delivered up in the lake by 20 to 2. So just a general comment from me for anybody who's going to be carrying on when I'm long dead and gone. The things a supervisor wants to look for, and the LBN staff, get organized early, get your ducks in a row, all your equipment, make sure it's functioning, hire staff that want to be here. You can't do it with staff that are having problems getting along together, or their work ethic is not there. Because of different programs, this one happens fast and is over fast, and you can make mistakes fast. And it all comes, generally the program, you follow the basic rules, it'll work for you. And wish you all well. For staff coming out here, I've been out here, I actually started working here in 1978. And I worked here till about 2002. I was gone for about 10 years when I retired, and now I've been coming back pretty much ever since. I missed the odd year. So I've been around for a long time, and I've enjoyed the place, and it's a beautiful place to work, and it should be a healthy work environment for everybody. For coming out here, what it takes is got to be able to get along with people, which is, I think, should be obvious. And this is truly, without being too mellow, it's truly, there's no I in team. If everybody does their part and you got cohesion, the program will go well. Everybody will be assigned duties, and they'll vary according to your level is how you react to those tasks you're giving, and it happens fast. The time you learn everything, you're right into the peak, and then it ends really fast. Once you have your staff hired, you should be gearing up to open the camp up sometime, depending on weather, sometimes between April 25th and probably May 1st, but the camp should be operational by the 5th for sure. And that includes launching boats, you've worked with DFO, making sure the water's running and the camp is functional, etc. Okay, so the smolt trap itself, and it's in the SOP, and I believe there's pictures in it. So what it is, it's all on 8-inch pilings. Piles were driven in 1978, it was rebuilt then. So 8-inch pilings, the leads are 10 feet apart, the poles, and then there's 2x4s, and then 1-inch chicken wires attached to that. The last couple years, we've been switching over to this green Vexar. It's a hardened plastic, and it seems to be working good. What happens over the winter and the spring when the ice is leaving, the ice would cut the chicken wire. So we're trying a new thing that keeps the fish, still guides them in, and something that can last a little longer. With the fish coming in on that note, the leads, once they get inside of the V, they touch the wire, they're fine. Like they won't, even though there's holes they could swim through, they don't. They just keep following the leads down, whatever, it's a barrier to them. They'll come to hit, they see an object and they turn. and they actually start coming on down backwards. Like they'll swim through here and they'll turn and they'll just drift through, and then they drift through right to the back. And normally, if there's not many of them, they're not smart enough to go back out. So that's all they're trapped, and then we scoop them out. Right? And the trap itself, it's comprised of 3 panels on each side, and then we have the stops in the middle. The very back, it's just a backstop of the trap that goes down guides. It has 1/4 inch Marquisette netting. It stops the fish from going through. The panels going upstream now are called, they're called dinker panels. So it's like a cone about 18 inches off the bottom, and the fish go through these 2 cones. Those are placed when you're fishing the trap. Pressure of the other ones coming behind them are going to push them through. This is when we're in large numbers. They go through the 2 dinkers, and they're trapped. The staff will scoop them out, and we hold them in pens. When normal water, these pens will hold 25,000 pieces each. So we got 125,000 we can hold. The trap will hold about 100,000. There's some day migration. You're gonna be conscious of when you're doing the dipping now. We're gonna move on to that, especially at night. You don't overfill these things. There's no reason to. If we get into main lake fish, we get lots. We're gonna be working at night anyhow. So use a maximum of 25,000, which is like 20 buckets, and you just keep them separated. We don't want to overcrowd them and kill anything. So the staff is always, always conscious about being mindful of that. With the trap on a daily basis, when you're walking around working, you want to be checking that it's called Marquisette netting, and it's very fine, soft, white mesh. It's 1/4 inch, and you want to be checking for holes. It could be a hole that caused by your dip net. One of the things that notorious are muskrats will chew a hole through. So you got to get in there as soon as you see something and get it mended. The only other thing that happens as the water rises, you're going to get a lot of the dead grass and segmented grass from the shoreline. As the water comes up in the lake, it washes down, and you have to deal with that on a regular daily basis. What you usually do is you dip the trap out, you'll lift all the 2 dinkers out and the blocker at the back, lift them out, get the flow through, clean it, drop them again. I have to explain what a day is. A day consists of 12 o'clock to 12 o'clock the next day. So I'm talking today on May the 9th. So today was the day of May 9th. It started May 8th. So it's called the 8th 9th, because you're catching the fish at night on the 8th, and you're fishing to noon. Today is starting right now because we're afternoon here. It's 9th, 10th tomorrow. And that's on your data sheets, and it's really important to measure that. So what happens when you're fishing the trap at 12 o'clock, you clean the trap of any debris or anything, and you get the last of those fish out, and then you drop it again at 12 o'clock. And this is really important in the late run, because you're getting a heavy day migration. The fish actually come more in the day than they do at night. So this is important to do that. So you'll get your staff or yourself and who's ever doing the dipping, you get them about 11:30, making sure there's any remnants coming through. And then what you do, if there's there's fish out in the leads, in the triangle of the leads, you want to get the back up as fast as you can, get it clean, and drop it for 12 o'clock. And that's a critical junction of your day. You want to watch for things like the staff don't overload the holding pens and panic, because then you'll have heavy mortality, which you do not want. There's little tricks that you work on, like you keep fish moving, but yeah. And if you have to, you hang more pens. That's something you can easily do. So we are working on water, and to get to the water, we leave the camp in a jet boat. It's about 1 kilometer upstream. LBN does everything to ensure that you've had swift water training, which is extremely important, and the jet boat training. This year, jet boat training had to be canceled because we didn't have deep enough water. We couldn't launch the boats. And then we got right into our program. But I believe that's going to happen in the year. But over the years, everybody's had jet boat training and swift water. The waters come up extremely fast, and as the water rises, the velocity increases. It's dangerous. And people have to be confident in what they're doing. Even after their jet boat training, I as the mentor, or whoever the mentor will be, will spend time with the person actually running the boat, and everybody takes turns, and it doesn't take very long to pick it up. It's a fairly easy river to run. It's very easy actually once the water comes up, but it does move very fast. And we've also got a anomaly here that other rivers don't have. We have a big counting fence right below our docks, and if something happens to your boat on the way down, your chances of reacting before you hit that fence are not real good. So we have anchors on board. The boats are equipped with all the gear that's required, and it's practice. And everybody works differently. Some people pick it up quicker, other people don't, or their confidence isn't there. So what I would do typically, they'll go up on the lake and run the boats and practice in little bays and that where there's no velocity and you're safe, and we can burn a little bit of gas and have some fun and have fun doing it, but learning the safety stuff. So yeah, and it's one that's learned in time, and a lot of the staff from LBN here have done it for many years, and they're completely confident and capable of running the boat. So yeah, an example, like if you were running your boat and you got near the dock and you hadn't checked your gas, you run out of gas. We've got heavy anchors. You hope that someone's in camp, but you get those anchors in the water first, and it'll slow the boat down. And if you've got extra fuel on board, you refuel and get over. But typically what you do is get the anchors in as soon as possible.
Perfect.
But on that being said, we've assigned people. In this case, I have a fellow working here named Gilly. He's making sure that the boats, you take care of the easy thing first. Make sure the boats aren't going to run out of fuel. If you suck up rocks, you train people how to shut the motor off so the debris drops out. That usually fixes the problem and gets you enough power to get to shore. So just boat safety, guys. Before you leave the dock, make sure you got fuel and you're ready to go. Everybody has life jackets on, and that's number uno, no exceptions. So there's mandatory stuff in the boat. There's rope and anchor. There's throw bags. Each boat will come equipped with 2 paddles and a telescopic pike pole. We're using 2-way radios. There'll be a radio up at in camp, and then one up at the smolt trap. There's an air horn, a fire extinguisher. We've got a set of tools, and each boat is equipped with its own set of tools, and they're all identical. So hopefully the tools will stay in the boat. A flashlight and a spare drain plugs and a baler bucket. You watch for moose in the drink, believe it or not, and just be safe. As you approach the smolt trap, you slow down. These are jet boats, and they don't do reverse very well. So I ask the people, when they're within about 100 feet of the smolt trap, start idling back so that you just kind of float into the trap, eh? And then of course you tie up. And we're going to assume that people have learned or should have been trained, if not, the mentor will do that, how to actually tie a boat up with a figure 8. So, and then you safely exit the boat, because this time of year we're speaking here, it's early May, we're getting heavy frost and the trap is extremely slippery. It's got frost. We've got shingles, asphalt shingles down, and they help. But you have to really exercise caution, and every day you do. So there's 3 buildings on the smolt trap. The first one, when you dock up, you'll see is the smallest one. It's the tagging shack. That's where the 2 to 3 taggers are in there. There's a hole cut in the floor, so you got to be careful when you walk on the trap. If you're new, you don't walk right to the hole, because you end up in the water, and people have done it. So that has its own little holding net. It's and a trough and a water system there where the taggers will tag your daily allotment of tags. The second, the middle building, is the examining shack, and that's where you examine the fish for tags on a daily basis. Again, you do the calibration there. You're checking for the marks, and that's what that building's for. It's got water, of course, in it. And the big building is just our / little laboratory when we do our daily sample of fish. And then it's also got the coffee and related gear for the program. We have a Honda water pump that it draws the water from the river to us, and there's the big blue tank up there. It fills that, and it's all gravity fed. It's all underneath the the dock, and it's been there for years. And in the springtime, you break one of the joins just so it drains water so it doesn't freeze in the winter. So that's a daily, that's run daily. The 5 holding pens are hung right away as soon as the trap is in, because you want to anticipate when you're getting smolts. So those are done, and it takes a few hours to hang them. They're pretty self-explanatory what to do. Everything should be fully functioning before you get here. It's hard to fix things out here. Work that is done before you start the program. One of the things is preparing your sticks, your tag sticks. Should all be pre-done. They're usually done in the winter time and all colored up. So that's one less thing that the manager and the staff have to worry about in season, because you do get busy and you get tired and you'll make mistakes. So the tagging for the program, it's a marker capture program, MC over R. It is developed around a mark recapture, but it's different than a regular mark recapture because this one goes over a 10-day cycle. You have 10 colors, starting with white, and they're all listed in the document you guys have. Ideally, like to be fishing on May 1st, which we were this year again. We were able to get everything in, and but you have to pre-planning to make sure all the ducks are in a row. So, of course, the smolts are moving the whole length of Babine Lake, which is 126 miles. But what happens at our end at Nilkit, where the outlet is, typically the smolts will not start moving until the ice is actually off the lake. And usually that's right around the first week in May. This year, for instance, in 2023, the ice didn't get off to about the 6th. As soon as the ice got off, the next day we got fish. Assuming the ice is off on May 1st or the 2nd, what you'll typically get is a few fish, and of course you're catching them all in the evening now, because they're only migrating at night. You're going to you'll be getting a few fish every day, but it'll slowly build like a few hundred, then 500 and 1,000. By about the 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th, you're going to start getting fish into the thousands, like 10,000 and that. So that correlates with your tagging. You do not begin tagging till you know you have a consistent run. You can't start tagging and then not have enough fish the next day and it can't tag. So what you would typically do in that case, but you know the fish are building, you would save fish in a holding trap till the next day, just to make sure that you caught enough fish for the next day. So what I'm trying to say is the tagging has to, once you begin, you have to go through the 10-day cycle. You can't have a break. You absolutely can't. So it's a kind of a little guessing game. So what you do is you hedge your bet, you hold extra fish you've got. They're going to keep building up just before the long weekend, the 18th or 19th, whatever it is in May, and they should peak somewhere very typically around the 100,000. Pretty good run of fish, but not great. But that's early run, and then what they'll do then within a day, they'll drop right off to not zero, but down into the 20, 30,000s, and then they'll start building up. And you're going to notice the fish size is going to change. You're going from late or early run fish to late run. The morphology of them is completely different. They're quite large, and they're all uniform. It's also really easy for the taggers. And that will continue. The run will build between the 23rd to the 30th of May. It'll build and it'll peak, and you will have some what I'll call blowout days where you could literally get 200,000 to 300,000, and you can fall a day behind. You got to plan your staff accordingly. Everybody's working overtime, but it's keeping people, rested if you can, and so they're safe. But it's also we need their eyes to find tags. So it's kind of a little bit of a juggling game as managing the staff, and you go with what the fish are dictating you. So the evening part of the smolt program, it's usually 2 guys come up, unless you have lots of fish where guys are dipping and they're also starting to calibrate fish. You can already see dimpling out here. You see that looks like water drops. Fish are already moving by. You come up about a half hour before dark, and you get ready. Fish have already started moving. They've been going by for a few minutes. So 2 guys are doing this, and what you do, you go down together, you put your net beside the dinker gently, and you're doing everything trying to be quiet because they're spooky, and you move your dip nets together, come up, and now we're getting some fish tonight. So Mike's going to put his in the first pen, and And I'm going to put mine in the second pen. And you try to kind of calculate what you've caught in your head. We probably each dipped about 1,000 fish there. So what you do, you'll clean the pen out, and then you just stand back and wait. And as the fish are building, the run is building, you'll be dipping on a more regular basis, like every 10, 15 minutes when it's dark. So you do the same process for about an hour, hour and a half, depending on what the fish are doing, up to 2 hours. And as the season goes on, there's more daylight, you come up later. When you're first starting out counting or tagging fish, you bank fish. So like I explained, if you caught 1,500, save 500, put 1,000 tags on, because once you start tagging, you're gonna need that 500. 500 is one stick, that'd be your minimum amount you'd put on, or the math ain't gonna work. So that's what banking entails. If you weren't getting many fish, there's probably 2,500 each in there, we would split that. You would tag these in the morning, you would keep those to the next day in case you don't catch fish that night. So that's what banking fish are. If you think you're gonna get enough, then of course you tag them and calibrate them as per usual. It's only done in the early part of the season. We've done 24-hour tagging in that, and most of the fish are done by, we found, are done by midnight. They, after 3, 4 in the morning, you don't get anything, and they get a few in the early morning, like 6 o'clock. So this is the lower basin of Little Kitwell Lake. You can see it starting to narrow coming into the river. Lower Babine River starts there. So what we're trying to do is catch a percentage of those fish. And they're coming straight at us. A lot of them are going to take that curve and go down the deep channel. This is quite shallow for them, so they're more susceptible to predators. A bull trout or something just rolled right there, chasing them. And you can see all these swirls of fish right now. They're all coming at us, and they'll be here in a few minutes. But what they will do, they'll come in, do a little circle and go out, and they'll just, until they're ready to go through. They'll figure it out. So it's certainly active tonight. And right now out here, there's about 3-4 feet of water. There'll be burbot and probably the odd steelhead and trout and bull trout. They'll be lined up here chasing them, because you will see them come through. So the person in charge is responsible for collecting the data, and it's just the LBN Smolt Project, and this is our calibration sheet. So what happens here, the first thing you do in the morning, you get up here at 8 o'clock, you collect the basic environmental data. It was sunny, I did it at 0800, 2 degrees, 5.2, we have a thermometer, and the water level is 78 centimeters. Okay, so you do that first when you come up. You got your dates, and what happens now when we do this sheet, we're going to calibrate 5 buckets, okay, and that's going to give us our average, which ended up today being 1653, and then after that, all you do is you count the number of buckets, and that's going to give us our grand total at the end of the day when we're done. We have another bucket or so in the pen here. This is done last. The data is simple, and when we're done at the end of the day, you see the tag recoveries, count the number of different tag colors. That's our 10-day cycle, okay? And the person in charge writes down those numbers. The sheet is everything. That's all our work, all your day's work is on that sheet. So you gotta be careful with it. One person only does it, and it's usually the calibrator does it. This whiteboard here, we use it just to do our math. Like there was 3 of us. Mike and I did this first bucket alone. There was the Gilly, Mike and I did these ones together. Just the math that gets transferred on that sheet. That way you can't cheat the numbers. It comes out about a 1650 average, which is about what we were getting. The fish are really small right now. And what does happen as the time goes on, the fish, their early migration smolts are small, like you've seen with the sampling, and they're going to get bigger and bigger, and soon the buckets will be like 12 or 1300 because the fish are that much bigger. They're like almost double that size. So you do the calibration that's your first thing you do fish-wise in the morning. You get your average, so you count buckets after that. So we're going to get an average today, unfortunately, of only 3, maybe 4 buckets, but it's 3 buckets is the minimum you can do to get an average. The taggers get a bucket of fish, which is going to be, today it's about 1,500. They don't have to count any little ones that they have to release because we've got them calibrated already. So it's just counted as a bucket, but it's added to the total, and it's on the sheet. And so what happens, and the person that starts calibration finishes calibration, and everybody has their own eye. So it's volumetric calibration. So I'm going to fill the bottom with water for that first black line. And that's my eye. If I can get you to lift that, Kelly, get some dead. The taggers will get a bucket to start with. You count that as one bucket. If they're doing 6 sticks, which is just over 3,000, they'll get a second bucket once the trough is emptied out. If they need a few fish, because they've thrown out a lot of small ones, so you end up using a total like 4,000. What the calibrator will do, he'll fill a bucket as usual. He'll give them what the taggers think they need. He'll examine, the rest will be spread out in the tray and be counted as a bucket because it was started out as a full calibrator bucket. Well, the tagging station equipment, there's 3 things. There's the trough to hold the fish. There's the sticks for the tags, and there's the holding pen because the fish come in, they're drugged, tagged, and dropped in a holding pen. For taggers, in the early part of the run, taggers have to use their judgment for the size of the smolt being tagged. Generally, they got to be more than 50 millimeters. 60 is probably the lowest you want to go. It's one of those things that's taught in the field. You show people, and people figure it out really quick. It's going to be really obvious to you if you got a really small fish and you got this tag. It's not going to work for the fish. Okay, so we've got the other guys going in the examining shed. We got a person starting to sample right now. So in the tagging shed here, the people that come up early in the morning get it all ready for them. They fill the trough with water. They fill their holding boxes with water. And then that's all you do for them. They come in with their tags. The individual tagger puts his own anesthetic in. The anesthetic it's called MS-222. It's a fish anesthetic. This time of year, in early May, the water is cool, it's cold. You generally need a little more anesthetic because the fish aren't reacting to the anesthetic with the cold water. As the water warms, you use less. The idea is to use a minimum amount. And when you're in the tagging station, you have your square box that has the little net on it. You only put a few fish on. You want to get the fish in and out, into the anesthetic as quick as you can and out of and tagged into the holding pen so they can recover. The MS-222 comes in granular formula. It's in powder. So what the recipe for it is 25 grams for 500 milliliters of water. And so what you do is you put that in a mixing glass that's used just for that, mix them together, stir them, and then you go them into a squeeze bottle. And that's how it's done. And usually you only have to do 1 batch a year. If the fish, if they're starting to roll over on their sides, they're in too long. So what you ask the taggers to do when they're starting out, you only put a few fish in at a time, like 3 or 4 or 5 fish. And so you get faster. Once you get faster, you can put more fish in. But because you're going to be struggling holding the fish, and they're going to be in the bath too long. Taggers that are got some experience and are quick, in your holding tray in your tagging box, you can put a dozen, 10, 12 fish in there at a time, because you're going to get them out under a minute or 2. New taggers, it's recommended you put in like 4 or 5 fish, because if you're slow in that, they're going to stay in the anesthetic too long. That's going to increase your chances of mortalities. So it's one of those lesson of the road. As you get better, you can taggers, as they improve, they can put more fish in, because it makes you go faster because you're not dipping for fish all the time. But so again, advanced taggers, you can put 10 dozen fish in there easily. New taggers, under a half a dozen. Band-aids are used. What happened in the old days, people would tag for the whole time without any band-aids, and that's if you're right-handed, using your thumb and your index finger to actually tag the fish. And of course they'd get cuts, their finger got cut and all that because your hands get soft. So what happened, we started using an actual elastoplast, the cloth Band-Aid, and they'll put it around their their index finger and their thumb. So that's for gripping, for holding the tag, and when you squeeze it, so it doesn't break your skin. So you always have a big supply of Band-Aids. Color of the tag going on a given day is determined by a preordained list that everybody uses every year. Starting on May 1st, I believe it's white. It goes through in a 10-day cycle. You follow what's given on that day. What you do, you assign one person. In this case, I've got Brandon West here. He takes up the staple that is used that day. It's extremely important that you're putting on the right color for that day. And you don't leave it just for anybody ad hocly. You assign somebody to that task. When a person gears up the tag, he's got his rain gear on, he's warm, he's ready to go. He's put his Band-Aids on, he's squirted in his anesthetic, what he's comfortable with. When I say that, usually the new people, the supervisor will help them, make sure you're not too much. So what you would do, you pick up the fish and you use your fingers like a tunnel. You put the head of the fish in, okay, and you gently squeeze. And this is what people don't have trouble with the actual application of the tag. It's holding the fish that gets you into trouble. You start squeezing too hard, all kinds of things happen, okay? And generally the fish is the one that pays the price. So it's the front of the dorsal fin and above the lateral line. That's like their spinal cord. And the staple cannot go in the lateral line. The fish is dead. Press it in. You'll actually hear it, and you drop it in the pen. So the hardest part for a tagger is actually getting used to picking up the fish. A lot of people that don't have any experience with fish, they'll be challenged with that. Anybody that's done any coated wire tagging, clipping, or something like that will have an easy time at it. So in the examination room, what happens? There's a valve there. The tray, the square tray, has got a line on the side. The water is, you let water in. The water's coming from the tank over there. It's filled every 25 buckets. You can run it on the pump. It's filled, comes up through this pink line on our tray. This is the examining tray, and this is the crib. And actually you can see the different color codes. A calibrated bucket is spread evenly through these 12 squares. And right now we're looking for marks, which is extremely critical. That's what this is all about, is collecting the tags. And every tag is important. Okay, now you get the crowder. Now they're crowding the fish in to make them easier to count. So now you actually just start counting the fish. And your counters, you're better off doing 4 or 5 or 2 or 3. People say I've seen them dip 10, and they say they can count them all on there, and I don't think so. And you don't count coho and pink fry and other incidentals. All you do is count in sockeye. I think that's pretty much it. Once you've done your examination, looking for your tags, and if you're still doing calibration, you do your count. If you finish your counts and you're just doing examination, you lift that tray out, and then you do one more look with the metal detector. This comes off.
Usually you do it with it too, sometimes. And then you go slowly around. So if this thing beeps, that means you got a tag. If it doesn't beep, then you don't have nothing. See? It's not saying anything, so we don't have no tags.
Once that happens, the fish are ready to go. You've done your count if required. You've looked for your tags. So now the fish are ready to be released. And what we have now, there's 2 handles on the tray. There's a foot pedal. You push the pedal down and lift. The fish are splashed out into the river. Your foot on it, and you push and push. There you go. And that is slick. Should have done this 50 years ago. And away you go. Then you start filling, let the thing back down. You got one person, that's one of his tasks. He opens the valve up, you start going through the system again. Storage shed has got two things. Storage, coffee room, place to get out of the weather for people. And then the other thing, we have a table where we do our our biosampling, which is done on a daily basis. We sample 50 smolts randomly. You count them when you're doing your calibration for length and weight, and you check them for the worm Bothrum salvellini. The worm, there's a very good picture of it in the SOP because we caught that one a couple years ago, and it's a wonderful picture of it. The other thing you're looking for is roundworms. You just write that in. But the worm we're actually looking for is a Bothrum. You do 50 a day. It's usually 2 people does it. One person records, the other person does the weighing and measuring. And every 5th day, you take 5 sockeye smolts, individually wrapped in a baggie, and just a weight and measurement on there, and that's done for a lipid sample for fish quality. The percentage of the worms or the fish infected with the worms goes up and down during the run. Is my understanding from a parasitologist, when they get to the ocean, the worm is excreted. So after you've applied your tags, you're finished by 1:15. People are in, possibly still examining fish, depending on how much you've caught that day. The tags are delivered every day in Nokitwa Lake at 20 to 2. So what happens, you want your delivery people, and hopefully you can have people that are the same people doing it every day, so you get that continuity again. They should leave the trap at 1:30. That gives you about 10 minutes to get up there, and you're in the delivery place. There's been a buoy placed in the main basin of Nokitwa Lake to know where to turn to, where you start your delivery towards the upper river. So what's in your boat? Of course, your boat is checked out for fuel again. Make sure it's running. You got all your safety equipment. You have what's called the coffin, and it's a box about 24 inches by 4 feet and 30 inches deep. So it's filled with water. You use a small dip net. You get the dip net out of the tagging net or trough. Tagging bin that we have, the fish that are tagged are in it. They get put in the net or in the coffin, and you go as soon as you can. If the fish, in the early part of the year, it's not, the cold water helps the fish. You don't have to worry about the dissolved oxygen. What happens if you're going up the lake and the fish start to come to the top and they're mouthing the top? You slow down, get a couple buckets of water, pour from a couple of feet into the middle of the thing. It oxygenates the water again, get going. And we've never had a problem, an ill effect to the fish in that case. So, and the smolt release location, early in the year, it's been marked out in the mid basin till the narrows is where you do your first day's delivery. Second day, you go from the narrows up to this new bladder that we put in the water. That's for the first 2 days. For the remainder of the season, you go around through the narrows, Nokitwa, up to this white bladder, and you head straight up the lake, and you start your delivery. And the delivery, you get your skipper, who's ever running the boat, to get you pick a nice speed, but it's usually about full throttle, about a third. And what you do is you have your dip net, and you're dipping anywhere from 5 to 10 fish at a time, flipping them gently overboard, and you try to keep that consistent throughout your run. What you do before you get to the lake, the person that's going to be doing the dipping is got a small dipper and a bucket. He's looking for fish that look like they've already died or they're gonna die, and you put them in. You take those out, and they're out of the system, because you can't. What you're trying to do is get your actual estimate of the calculated number of tags into the lake you've done. You can't risk fish that look like they're not going to make it, and you release them, and you know pretty well they're not going to make it. So you need that actual number. So what you're doing, you're keeping your tags that are lost in the trough, in the tagging shack, you have a tallywhacker to track that, and then the ones that are died pre-delivery. And you have that total number, you subtract that from the number of tags you applied. And it's on the sheet, and it's quite clear. So the idea of the program, of course, is to collect the tags. It's called a marker capture program. During the day, during your examination, and the taggers, they will recover tags. This was recovered from the tagging shack. It's the first day, blue, white, blue. At the end of the day, when everything's done, you make sure there's no water in the tray. You've got the crib, and it's got all the color codes. That happens to be blue, white, blue. Everybody's picking different colors, and they're spreading them around. When you're done that, someone will count and they'll be recorded on your tag recoveries right across the board. Okay, how to determine when to stop tagging. It's a trick to when to start tagging and a trick to when to stop. What usually happens, of course, your catch, the actual catch you're getting, is going to start plummeting really fast, and your tag ratio, which is amount of tags caught per bucket, is going to shoot way up, like less than 1 in 100. And when you start getting under 5,000 fish in total catch a day, you start thinking about pulling the plug. And what you would be doing by then, if you're still fishing, you'll be also reducing the number of tags. You wouldn't be putting on 3,000 a day if you're only catching 5. So you start reducing that, and then when you get under about 1,000 fish a day, what you do, you'll stop tagging completely. I would say that it depends on the person and how much money you got, but if I was a manager, I want you to stop somewhere probably closer to 2,500. Stop tagging, but what you have to do, you have to keep running the program, the catch of that, for the 10 days to finish out the cycle of all the colors, because you got all those tags out in the lake. And that's one it's kind of done by your best educated guess what you're going to do, and experience helps. But you might want to consult some people to think about what you're doing, and then of course budget constraints. So you folks doing this, it's a kind of a unique program. The only thing closest to this is the one in Chilco Lake in Williams Lake. It happens very fast. It comes up and sneaks up on you, and it's very busy, and you're going to be tired. And hopefully you have a few laughs. You got a good crew getting together. It works well. And what you got to remember what you're doing here. This is part of for the Lake Babine Nation, and part of they're managing these stocks with DFO. And it is a big factor in what the management regime is going to be in 2 years, because these fish are going to go out in the ocean for 2 to 3 years and come back. So we want to get as accurate as we can as an estimate of what's going out there. So the managers within LBN and DFO can come up with a plan for the future coming down the road. So this is an integral part of the management of the Skeena sockeye, as Babine holds 90% of the sockeye. So good luck to you.